see the switchboard, and I can tell which weapon is which. I was being shot by one of the big-nosed grays that was at Dulce Base in the ET cave below it.
Oh.
It was April of 2017. The board behind my whiteboard here has metal on the back side of it. Yeah, that thing. Because in that wall, there is a device that ET was using to shoot me with. There's a maser in that wall. And Lou and I decided that we would leave it rather than take it out and make a big mess and have someone else just come in and put in another one. So, so we just blocked it. And that was what the ET was, that's what the big-nosed gray was shooting me with. And while he was shooting me, I connected to the switchboard and I got the smallest weapon from the choice menu and focused it in that cave. And both Boris and Ileana from our group remote viewed it afterwards, and Boris described it as being a mini black hole, and that fit with my vision of what I had done. It started with this white light that went to yellow and red and orange, and then everything was black. And Elena didn't read it the same way, but close. And so the general agreement was between the three of us was that the ET base part of it was gone, and so was the Hall of Horrors, which should have been taken out years ago. But I've been monitoring it since, and the humans have been rebuilding it. So that was really frustrating. It's been 2.5 years and it's being rebuilt. So, and I'm going to assume that representatives of the same ET race are going to be there, doing the same things all over again.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so there's a lot we can go off with this. I'm still like building up. With your altars.
No, that was me that did that.
Oh yeah, like you, because you're trained
me
physically, yeah, and here in this life, okay.
Me.
So what's your the next process that you're going in focus into integrating into yourself? Because I'm also like going into integrating my altars because there's quite a lot of evidence that they want my attention. I have weird emotions that come up that have images and remembering and like, oh, this person that died that I love, and all this other trauma, like wounds, like anyway, people like, you know, I'm preaching to the choir. So what have you been?
I understand that. Yes, it's a similar process. Lou tells me that at least one full day a week that there's somebody else running my body. that he has to nag her to take my meds for the body's physical problems, and that she just gives him a ration of crap all day long. And what I told him was, well, you get a variety that way. He doesn't have to be poly. He's got 2 in 1.
So, like, how would you go about bridging for the audience on how you got into understanding dimensional and time travel?
When I was about 6 years old, Langley had completed creating the altars, but they had not been trained yet. 80% of us had died in this process, as far as the kids I was there with. They killed 80% of us permanently. And when they got the 2,200 altars they wanted, they took the survivors to Montauk in batches. We had to spend time in the Montauk chair. They were testing its capabilities, and they were testing the butterfly effect, and they wanted us to time travel and do specific tasks to test the butterfly effect, which is that if you change something in the past, it can dramatically change the future. And as a side note, the butterfly effect was found to not be valid. Most of us, most individuals have no effect on the timeline at all. We're just cannon fodder. As a mass group, if we all disappeared, it would make a difference. But what happens to us individually doesn't. There are key individuals throughout history in whatever species, whatever race, whatever ethnicity. There are key individuals who make or break history. And those people matter. And the rest of us don't. And I'm okay with being one of the ones that don't. It would be a lot easier that way. I'm not sure I am, but you know, I'm going to go with, I'm okay with it. Now, while I was there, I had been so abused at Langley. And when I got to Montauk, I was being kept in a cage and fed dog food and not treated like I was human at all. There was a Jurakan warrior, that's the warrior class of the Draco, sitting in the corner watching all the time. And I was this little girl that was tired of it. And I figured out almost immediately that this technology could be used to escape. And I went interdimensional instead of through time. I'd go through, you know, because when they turn it on, the stripes come alive and they form loopies. And the loopies will grab at you. And I would find one that coincided with the portal that I could see. That would, there are portals between the different dimensions where you can jump. It's like playing chutes and ladders. And I would find one in the tunnel and just leave. I would physically disappear on them and never make it to where they were sending me. And The guys that were running it were Scientologists, and they were just absolutely livid that I was doing this. And the Jurican would come through and find me because he had hyperspace abilities, and apparently I left a trail. Or as he put it that I left a trail, and he used the word mile. And he was thinking his own unit of measurement for the equivalent, but he used the word mile. He said, "You leave a trail a mile wide." And I got to where I left a smaller and smaller trail all the time. And the Scientologist human who was running the place would get angrier every time I did it. But I was trying to escape. And finally, the human wanted to put me in the incinerator that they used to destroy the kids that went insane, because most of them did. That was one of the reasons why that as soon as we had all of our altars, they sent us to Montauk, was because they didn't want to waste time training somebody that was going to be dead. So they killed a lot of kids there. And the guy was going to just dump me in the incinerator because he said I was useless because I wouldn't cooperate. So the Jurican stood up and said, because she can do this, she's more valuable than the rest, I will chip her to make her easier to find. So that was the first chip that I had in my head, so that no matter where I went, they could find me. As far as I know, I still have that. So I've made no attempts for anonymity. I've made no attempts to hide. I'm not leaving where I live. It wouldn't do any good unless I don't even think I would be safe on another planet, because they have not only that chip, but they know all of my personal frequencies. There is no place I can go that they can't find me. So at 6 years old, that's a hell of a thing to figure out, because I had already learned that death was not an option at Langley. So I'm not allowed to die. I'm not allowed to escape. There's no place I can hide.
What do you want from this dream comparatively to that?
From this dream,
Physical.
I've never thought of this physical as a dream. This was just another layer of the reality.
Yeah, not like to discount it or anything, like to bring out the reality dynamics of becoming lucid in this dream concepts for like living in a hologram of light for yourself experience.
Well, I know I have a mission that I'm supposed to be exposing the crimes being committed, with the hopes that the common person will demand justice. And those of us who have been out there, I'm supposed to be helping them remember what they did and then live with the memories after they've remembered. Because so many of us lose it. I mean, that was one of the biggest problems with the super soldier community, was so many of them, when they would start to remember, their omega programming would be triggered, and they would not only kill themselves, but they'd kill their families.
That happened for me when I started remembering it. Suicide program after suicide program was so awful. Then I learned how to dismantle that and help others. So, but yeah, it's horrible
Well,
for people.
I had the suicide programming and I just stubborned it. Uh, Sheer willpower overrode it. I never got rid of it on my own. James Rink, the man you recently had an interview with, he called in Arcturians to help me. I didn't believe they were actually real, okay? So he's calling in some mythical creature to help me with Omega programming, and they actually showed up.
Yeah, they've shown dramatic reality shifts to me as well.
And they showed up and they worked on my programming for about 4 months. And they reached a point where they figured out what I was relative to them at soul level. And then they had this little happy dance for a week. And then they went back to work. And they told me that I had had Omega programming in every single altar I had. That's why it took 4 months. And they had this thing, they were going to change all my memories to happy thoughts. And I'm like, no. They go, but no, I want to know what actually objectively happened. And they said, well, if we're going to do that, we have to process them so that they're like old memories instead of emotional new ones. And I said, will that put you back to work? Because they were just like, we're not doing anything more unless we can screw over your memory. And I'm like, no. So we came up with the compromise. So they processed my memories where I'm not having a panic attack every time I remember something new. So there's good to that, because I can be, apparently I'm dangerous when I panic.
Right.
So
big activator for a lot of the things we have in ourselves. Yep. Makes sense.
So I mean, you viewed me, you know what's in there. You're one of 3 people who have been able to get through all of my shielding and actually see me, no matter how frantic I have ever been. So, kudos.
Honored.
I would listen to what you said and go, oh God, he does see me.
Yeah, it's layer after layer after layer. It's a fun multi-dimensional cake.
Yeah. So
you don't see every day. Not gonna say anything unless you're wanting to bring it up.
thank you, because there are things in there that I'm sure people would, your general audience and my general audience would completely freak out over. So this is going to be on YouTube.
yeah, YouTube ready.
So I have to kind of think about, what is a total stranger going to think of this? How dangerous is it going to be? So now, I have not gotten death threats. I know others in the community have. And I'm grateful I haven't gotten death threats. I have been shot at with energy weapons 10 times, and a couple of them came real close to killing me. But I'm still here to tell the tale. So,
glad you're bringing this up. This is foreign. Yeah, and yeah, I'd agree with what I've read. You're on Do Not Fuck With list, as well as the energy weapons is like, people have to deal with that because like it's under the guise of secrecy, and it's like the things that want to remain hidden and keep them going with like not like a initiation of war by it remaining factionalized, but you being able to train and track it back and resolve it by like your developed sense. Yeah, I had a lot of things try to stop my heart in the beginning, similarly, and they're awful. It was like heart attacks and like big stabbing, and like shut down, like pain, like as if my like whole body was full of. In the beginning, I thought it was like, oh, what are these, a million implants or something? Because they're like shocking the shit out of me, and it's like because I was like I learned how to punch something from a distance, and I was like doing that like for a while, and now I'm all peace and love and like able to do my love punches, but I was like beating up like some multidimensional beings, and they started like trying to like shut me down through that, and it's like some interesting stuff that people are able to do psionically in remote influence. What kind of things have you experienced?
Well, when I first started waking up, I had a lot of weirdness, and I knew that what other people were talking about was not what I was experiencing, but I had been Christian, and I knew that didn't apply. And I ended up with a Wiccan group that wanted to put me in an energy cage and trap me inside my body. And that lasted a whole 3 days before I broke the cage. And that scared them, so they all blocked me. Yeah, there's something about being powerful enough to break their cage that scared the crap out of them. So I figured out that was not going to be a solution. And I ended up with a series of people who were New Age healers, basically like what you do. Eric Rains, he's in our group. I'm sure you know him. He was one of the first. He offered to do Chinese meridian balancing on me for free. All I had to do was drive to his office. And we had, I think, 4 sessions. And it did help a lot because I have fibromyalgia. And so he was working on me.
He's wonderful.
He is. He's a great guy. And he figured out I did have a lot of implants. And he sent me to someone on Facebook that calls herself Mother God. And she was working with someone called Orion Lion at that point. And she said, oh, I've never had anybody have more than 150 implants in them before. This is going to be easy. And they got in there, and I had 270 something. And she's like, what are you? I don't know. Human, as far as I know. I was beginning to understand that I might be a hybrid at that point, but I wasn't sure what kind. Then in January 2015, I did regression hypnosis with a lady in Tracy. I'm in Central California, so this was a real world drive. And Eric at that point was in the Sacramento area. So that was a real world drive. Tracy is in between. So I told her the truth that I'm on Social Security disability, so she only charged me half her normal price, which was like, wow, thank you. And instead of doing a 3-hour session like we had negotiated, she decided to spend an 8-hour day with me. And the last hour of it, I was out of hypnosis, and she was trying to convince me that I was still a normal human being.
Yeah, what is normal? What is a human?
Yeah, exactly. She was saying, I hear a lot of this, it's okay, you're fine, you know. But she was trying. And I came out of that with the sure understanding that military laboratories had modified me with reptilian DNA. And I still didn't know what race or how much, but that was the source of my abilities. And they were getting stronger by the day. The more stuff I got cleared out, the stronger and clearer my own abilities were. And I had this, a year later, I had this friend. Well, it was a pair of friends in a twin flame relationship, and they weren't together, but they were trying to be. And they kept fighting because he had an alcohol addiction. And he was an Osiris avatar. So this was one of the times that I used my interdimensional hyperspace capability to try to help someone. This altar here and now, not in the programs. So this is how I can say I have this capability. Okay. Now I have guardians with me, and one of them decided to go with me when I did this. But I went into trance, and this was the end of January 2016. I went into trance and plunged down the tunnel, down to the bottom 8, the lowest dimension in our reality. And by the way, when you're looking down, it's red. When you're looking up, it's white. So I plunged down it, and I don't remember what it looked like there. And this guardian looks like a wolf. She's white but glows blue, and she followed me because apparently she didn't think I'd make it back by myself. And I went down there and I grabbed Osiris, and he was still bound up all these centuries later. And I brought him back and turned him loose in 6D. So he's not in 3D with a physical body. But this friend, who was named Arthur, was his avatar. And the goal was for his higher self to be present and fix the addiction. Well, he had done some things that were so bad. He stole $15,000 from his twin flame and just spent it, mostly on alcohol and a hotel room. And when the money ran out, he set a fire in the room and died from smoke inhalation. So my effort had been to straighten out his life, and the result was the man still died. He still killed himself. So it felt like a complete failure. But looking back on it, I did show that I still have this capability.
That's
So
so. Have you used it in any more type of training scenarios that aren't like you descending down into an area that is hard to deal with?
it wasn't, I didn't think it was that hard. I made it down there and I made it back with what I came for. And I was exhausted where I basically was bedbound for the next week. But, which about the time I was getting out of bed was when he killed himself. So maybe if I'd been in better shape and talking to him, it wouldn't have gone down that way. But people do make their own choices. At some point, you have to honor that they had free will. So,
Things to deal with here.
yeah, and his twin flame, who was not only robbed but mourned him because she truly loved him, is still one of my best friends. So this is a burden we have borne together, and her attitude was, at least I tried. So, and Osiris decided to join my guard duty. So, I mean, there are worse things you can have than the King of Hell.
So, yeah, and I don't see him as like really that bad or anything, and like there's
No.
many different hell realm concepts with Earth, so it's there's
Amonte,
way worse places than where he was.
Amonte is not like the Christian hell at all. It's more like the Greek view of hell, the land of the dead.
Right. So I guess like going into more subjects of what you can talk about. Have like so what other so like training, the moon, Mars.
I don't remember being on the moon. I really don't. I know I have an altar that flies a ship between the moon and Mars all the time, but I have no personal memory of being on the moon.
Okay.
I went from Langley to the jump gate in New York City that's on Long Island, and it's under a bridge. And the building it's under a bridge, and you go in and you go into the elevator, and there's a different place for the controls, and instead of going up and down, it goes to Mars. And you're in Aries Prima in 20 minutes. And yeah, I spent 25 years on Mars, 25 years in a ship in that altar. It's character.
Went around scanning a few of the locations of these jump gates. Yeah, it's interesting you named the one near Long Island. I'm in Connecticut, so it's not that far away.
No, it's not that far away.
Yeah, and I've also noticed some under like federal buildings and like under like malls and military bases, and it's some that are, as long as it has a big garage, it should be able to. It'd be a. I don't want to, because they're not everywhere. It's not like it's like easy to get technology, but it's very camouflaged. That it's got a lot of things around it, but it does have a temporal signature of like drama around it, and a frequency emission that like lasts in the area that can give it away if somebody was trying to track them. Anyway, so besides these projects, do you remember any other types that you're in, and like if you want to go into a little bit more on your involvement in the factions of, because I'm trying to give like a picture of like where the SSP for the Nazis is at in like its states of awareness to you, and have you? Oh, sorry, there's a lot of questions, and I'll remind you if. Have they contacted you since? Because they are quite interested in you.
The Germans, yes, they've contacted me. I just over a year ago, there was a disaster because the Galactic Authority told them to evacuate a world, and the High Command said F you. And so they sent the Guardians to destroy the world and all the colonists on it. And so we had time travel. So we were going back in time to before the disaster and rescuing as many people as we could. Well, there's a limit to how many times you can travel in time to the same place. And we had reached that limit and didn't have enough ships to rescue everyone. So we lost almost half the colonists. And we talked about it in the group because we have a lot of people who are still in active duty, and the feel of the group was like, there's something really bad that happened, and you know, we're depressed about it. Because normally the Germans, they go through and they kick ass and they come back happy. And we were coming back from this. And so I looked at what was going on, and over a 45-day period, I was being taken every night by both the Germans and the Kruger faction for 60 and backs as navigator. And used on this mission. So we're looking at, what is it, 45 days at twice a night? That's 90 altars, 90 trips in time.
Yeah, right. It's a little overwhelming. It's like, how is this real? And it's like, well, shit. I mean, we're quite the resource. So, like, once they find something they want to utilize as much as possible, and if they got the technology to where it doesn't interfere with the stream, then it can be something that keeps happening to a person, to where the amount of altars that a person knows about is usually not at all how many they have. And they're usually gaining their ability in awareness to work up to it based on how their higher self sees they're ready, and then as they make jump points in unpredictability in their timeline to where they can handle more and more will flow and come back, and they'll be more aware of the chess games that they're having in all these different places at once. And it's sometimes fun, sometimes not, depending on the amount of free will an individual is involved in and how they're working up to changing the system from within as they're involved in it, to where it's a counter chess move of why, like, most people allow this ultimately in higher self ability, because they are seeing it's gonna exist anyway, and they're involved in many chess games, might as well be somebody you trust like yourself to change it from the inside by being part of it.
I'm not sure what I'm doing there, except I know that one of those altars in Nacht Waffen is serving on the same ship with Will Glover. He's another whistleblower. And he and I have been friends for several years, and we were on an email discussion, and it was going back and forth fast enough that it was almost real time. And he connected with me telepathically, here and now, and then took both of us into his altar on the bridge, looking at me on the bridge. And that contact created a link between me and that altar where I wake up in her now. And I'm piggybacking her. So I'm not affecting what she does, but I'm witnessing what happens to her. And at some point, after they stopped getting me, so it would have been around Christmas last year, the German High Command called me into a meeting with them. And it was me, not her. And it was basically, we know you have all of these altars that are not ours, doing all of these things, and what is it we need to know? So it was like, I told them what the Guardians have told me, that the Germans have committed too many atrocities in space because their culture, their economy is based on slavery, and getting more slaves through assisting the Draco in putting down revolts. So when you have a slave-based economy and you're going through and capturing civilians from third worlds and enslaving them and turning them into cyborgs for sales to fourth and fifth hand ETs in exchange for more advanced tech, this becomes an issue for the Galactic Authority. Right. Especially when your race is considered to be a primitive race, and interaction between advanced and primitive races are under a set of laws called the Prime. So this is all 3D here and now galactic law. And the Germans have been just in total violation of it. And I'm not sure they didn't know about it. I'm thinking it's they knew about it and just decided to ignore it. And they've traveled back in time as far as 400 years to establish some of these colonies. So the bottom line is that the Galactic Authority is pushing all of the Earth humans back into the solar system. All of them. They're starting with the Germans because the Germans are the farthest out. The next ones will be planetary corporations, the ones that Corey Good calls ICC. And then it will be the two mercenary groups, Kruger and Monarch. They will be pushed back as well. And Solar Warden has hardly ever made it out of the solar system to begin with. So they'll be sitting back here watching everybody else coming back and going, what the fuck?
Thank you so much for bringing up this subject that barely anyone else talks about, that I've been scanning in the unseen, and it's wonderful to hear this concept of, hey, we had all these groups that factioned out and wanted to set up their own colonies and then exit the solar system hologram and go into the galactic game. And they're not adhering to the laws and the principles of the order of things, and seeing yourself as everyone and not acting against another person's free will. And so the deslaving of the Nazi SSP, the other factions, and bringing the ones that can't handle the rest of the galaxy, the negative factions of human, and reining them back into the solar system, as well as the other things that want to exit out of the solar system that are being quarantined here, kind of like a big resolutionary process for the rest of the galaxy and the multiverse, where it's kind of like a big root chakra where everything's grounded here to be resolved, and kind of when you see and you feel into these stagnation problems for growth in the ascending process of multiple species that are waiting to find what is the blockage to their greater growth, and they track things back to here because everything is like, oh, let's put it all here, and the big players of light and dark will fight it out in this layered hologram within hologram within hologram of multiverse, universe, galaxy, solar, Earth, into where all these dreams within dreams, chess games to find what manifests at the end that's agreed to being chess moved here. And that affects the rest of the universe. And what we do here while we're in this dream absolutely affects how, like, our species and all these other species come and go and quarantined in and kept from leaving the solar system, as well as those that aren't really allowed to be here. So, like, the quarantine working both ways. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, how it was explained to me was that Earth was designed to be a place for baby souls to learn how to live together. That baby souls don't know that violence is wrong. Baby souls don't know that greed is wrong. Baby souls don't understand a lot of things. And this was a place where the baby souls were supposed to learn all that stuff, and they could not leave until they were 52% service to others. And the soul trap that kept them here was based on that. You had to be 52% service to others to leave. And that the rest of the races decided, oh, we can use that as a prison. And so they exiled dissidents, they exiled rulers that weren't any good, they exiled criminals, they exiled mass murderers, all kinds of things here because they couldn't leave until they grew to 52% service to others or better. And so we've got, right now it's about half baby souls and about half criminals. And if you're here and you feel like you're an old soul, you're either a criminal or a jail keeper. So, pick your poison. But yeah, what we've got is we've got so many of the old souls here that are drifting toward that 52%. And they're trying to clean things up, but the baby souls really don't want it to change. And they're having fun learning. And so you have this competition of free will. And it's reached a point where the divide is so wide between the two groups that something's got to give. And the galaxy is pushing the rest of us back here and widening the trap from just Earth to the entire solar system. So anything that's inside the Oort cloud will now be the trap. I'm seeing that smile. What are you thinking?
Very interesting. Yeah. What is your perspective on what you found out with recent activity with groups and, like, information that's been coming to you, having to do with that quarantining and then the problems? I've been, like, constantly getting, like, interactions with that. Let's see, what am I allowed to say? So the things that have are here and elsewhere, like things that don't want to be here anymore, that are constantly trying to leave, and that being one of Earth's big problems. So that, like, coming up for the jail keepers in the resolutionary process and being shown in their body as they reclaim parts of their power in the system that is being stolen to, that is what is these beings that are of young baby soulish kind of quality, using that authority to leave. And when that comes up, they'll rein that in, and it's like an interesting process, because as that exposes more chess moves and cards being played in that soul group, the beings around it in an entanglement, and every version of them outside the solar system as like things and extensions of ourselves as the jail keepers and bounty hunter kind of esque quality, see who are the offenders and like giving them opportunity to show who they really are in the chance, like, oh, choose light or dark in each one of these choice points. And then as they show dark, they get less and less authority, and then all these other versions of themselves get quarantined back to here, and their systems of domination, and it kind of be like a big healing process of that. Is mostly what I'm seeing a lot of it culminating to where there's a lot of things that can handle the stuff here, but like what we're doing here resolves those wars elsewhere, and it's like a big sigh of relief in like when that part of the multiverse comes back to wholeness and unity and resolution of the drama that we have in an incursion. Or either we're doing an incursion or that incursion already existed, and we're resolving it through that reflection in ourselves in the momentary process of being a hybrid. Anyway, go ahead.
We have people here that are hybrided from at least 70 ET races, and most of them are doing a fine job of hiding. Some of them are just, some of the hybrids were so far from the human norm that there are actually, I believe it's 5 ships in orbit that are the hybrids that could not pass. And they've been watching with horror some of the things that have been going on. And yes, I do have contact with them. And they have a agent in our Facebook group who talks to me at least a couple of times a month. So this is real world, here and now, actual talk. It's not psi-ability. And his commanding officer has had telepathic communication with me in the past. So it's been both. I was picked up by the Jahami in July 2018, and they knocked me out when they picked me up, and they put me inside a device known as the Truth Machine. It was designed for interrogating ETs. The fact that they put me in there showed that they thought I had more psi-ability than the average human, that I had to be in a trap. And they started peeling off my altars, recording the memory, and then destroying the altar. Their intention was to go through each and every one of them and destroy me as a soul. And I think in the original timeline they did, because the Germans came and got me. They literally pulled me out of the machine and brought me home. And to this day, I don't know why. They lost a ship in the process. So I have no idea why a lieutenant that they keep calling a miscabert, that's a abortion that lived. That's what they call me, an abortion that lived. And yet they were willing to lose a ship to rescue me. And it doesn't make sense to me at all. That's
Sounds
been...
like they're keeping secrets.
Huh?
Sounds like they're keeping secrets.
Yeah. Now, I know they know what I was at soul level, because when they first get you, that's one of the first things they do is put you through. It's a machine that regresses you and records it in video format. So they know exactly what I have been in my past lives. And so it should not have been a total shock to them that the Shahami were angry with me. Oh, for the people who are listening, Shahami is what the Anunnaki people call themselves. They have been a part of Earth's history going back almost 500,000 years. They're one of the races who claim to have created us. And they've had 3 or 4 nuclear wars on their planet, and 80% of their male population is sterile, which means that they are now a dying race. And they cannot live on Earth for very long because of our nitrogen atmosphere. It's poisonous to them. And so that was, there have been negotiations for their lower classes to come here. And that's the group that the American government is calling tall whites. And the plan was a covert invasion, and the Guardians have stopped that and said, you either assimilate as humans and become part of the population and share your technology, or you leave. They've been given an ultimatum. So they were told this in this past September. So the American government has gotten pretty used to the technology drip, so I'm not sure how they are going to respond to this. So we have the 2 groups at it, comparing notes. We also have several Shahami ships in orbit with the capability of taking out an entire country at any time they so desire. So, just in case you wondered.
Yeah, but not to get into fear, because Earth has quite an interesting defense, and they've already attempted things like that, and it's gone back in time and just switched the timelines and then counter it. It's pretty interesting how it works. But
well, that weapons menu that I access, that's the planetary defense system. Those are the weapons that are supposed to be used in planetary defense. So I was hardwired into it into the 80s in the Star Wars defense program, because they wanted real humans to make the final decision on whether to pull the trigger. So That's why I have access to those weapons. They wanted people with skin in the game, as in having children or grandchildren.
That makes sense. Also, like links with beings of high authority and spirit, being part in that go into those points in the timeline to be allowed to do that. Interesting. And then also like that linking to other dimensional systems within, around, and like energetic with Earth, and all the other species that get called upon.
Well, we're not the only species here that's sentient by any means. You've got the whales, the dolphins. Even wolves are more sentient than humans want to admit, and bears, and we also have many extraterrestrial species living here, and we have other Earth native species. There's at least 7 races living underground that are all Earth-based species.
So for people that are having these experiences, please contact people such as Penny or Brave Soul in her Facebook group, and myself if you want to heal through these memories and get support for a community that is loving.
You're one of the admins. They can contact you to be added too.
So can you yes. Come to us. We'll help you. We'll help you reclaim your sovereignty from a lot of these programs. You will be a key factor in changing them for the better, and everyone winning. Because this doesn't have to be a chess move of them or us. It doesn't have to be war. It's like we are all one, and they're just under the guise of illusion of being separate and ego, and it's a healing process for what they have too. And as they entered and forced into your game, whether it be like a small amount of incursion or a huge amount of incursion, it will give you a large degree of chess moves in what manifests to them. Do not lose hope. Do not lose your heart, your power, your love, who you are. You are the universe, and you can overcome anything that you've been given. Your higher self wouldn't give it to you if it wasn't confident that you could overcome it, and use it as a training that will completely shift everything. Can you name drop how to reach you?
Penny Bradley on Facebook. Space Portals with an S .net. And my YouTube is Pennywinkle B. I'm trying to get it changed to Nacht Waffen Pilot, but YouTube has not been cooperating so far.
Me neither. Okay. And what do you do on Space Portals?
I'm the front-end admin, the one that talks to everybody. That's also where I do my counseling, and I do give discounted rates for low-income people, and I'm charging now because people didn't take my time seriously. So
you can also join the Secret Space Program group on Facebook.
Well, it's by invitation only these days.
Yes.
Because we were getting a lot of people who thought it was a game, and so you need to know someone who's already in the group. So you can contact me. My profile pic has Free Penny Bradley on it, So when you do any Bradley search, that'll be the one. And talk to me, tell me your story. And if you're an experiencer, I'll add you. So, or if you're a family member of an experiencer, because we know that no person is alone in the world, and I've added my partner and my youngest son and his wife to the group, because your family needs to know the realities too. So if you have a spouse who thinks you're nuts, you know, they may still think you're nuts afterwards, but at least they'll know you're not alone.
And then the family grows in the seen and unseen, the different dimensions of reality, and we all work together and in a collective, and to help to bring things to peace. And as beings come more into their power, they will see that in those layers as well. You can also contact me, and I'd be honored. With any experiences you're having, I can help you remember, as well as release, heal things and traumas and affecting your current state of being, so you can balance yourself and go more into your abilities, as well as learn how to do this stuff yourself. You can reach me at psionicleague.com. I'm also on Facebook, Sean Bond. Silver Cord Space Spiritual Science YouTube, for more content like this, and I hope to be doing more interviews with this lovely soul here. And if you like this video, please share it. Share it with
Share it widely.
yes. And comment your questions and other things you'd like for future videos, and let us know if you like this subject matter, and we'll continue to do things like this. Anything else you wanted to say as we wrap things up?
No, you covered it pretty well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you all so very much, and for all your bravery, and I love you all, and let us all come to a remedy for all this aspect of the universe as we become aware of every person's perspective and how to empower what we've been given. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.